Also in the United Kingdom, officials are highlighting the rise of sexual violence in areas of conflict. The UK is hosting an international conference on combating the problem. Last Saturday, its embassy to the Holy See held a march in Rome. EWTN Vatican Bureau Chief Andreas Thonhauser has more.
Joining me here in front of St. Peter's is UK Ambassador to the Holy See, Trott. Thank you so much for being with us.
Welcome.
And can you tell us a little bit more about the march that you organized and why you organized this march?
So we decided we wanted to find a way of drawing attention to the issue of sexual violence in conflict. Of course, sexual violence is a scourge wherever it happens. But we're particularly conscious of the fact that rape is used as a weapon of war in many conflicts around the globe. And so we wanted to march from the island in the Tiber River to St. Peter's Square on Sunday, just to draw attention to the suffering of the victims in advance of a conference that's being organised in London yesterday and today on this subject.
Ambassador, before you came to Rome, I understand you were placed in South Sudan.
Yes.
And you must have experienced at least the effects of sexual violence in war
yes.
personally being there.
I mean, for me personally, I have in a number of different places around the world over the course of my career, I've come across examples of sexual violence being used in conflict against women and against children. And in South Sudan, it was used by the different sides during the civil conflict there up until 2018 when the peace agreement was signed. It's being used today in Ukraine. And so it's time for the world to come together and say this is just completely unacceptable. This has to stop.
What was the reaction like of the Holy Father also when you presented that?
We were very moved because while the Holy Father talks a lot about sexual violence, he has never done it in the context of a conflict. And he specifically mentioned, he recognized that we had done our walk, and he specifically mentioned that it cannot be used as a weapon of war in his greeting to the crowd after the Angelus. And we were very pleased about that, because I think it's important that we have his moral authority in the context of this discussion.
So Pope Francis was very encouraging also on this topic.
Yes, he was.
You've been here for 1.5 years now in Rome. Your experience with being an ambassador to the Holy See?
I'm finding it really rewarding engaging with the Holy See. I think, as I mentioned when I first came to talk to you or your colleagues a year ago just after I arrived, coming with a background of working in Africa, I felt that now was a good time to be engaging with the Vatican because of the interest that Pope Francis himself has, but also then his team have collectively in issues that challenge lives in the global south. And for me, being able to come here and engage, I found a really receptive response to my experience. And I found it richly rewarding in helping me understand how the Catholic Church, in all its different formats, not just the Vatican, but religious orders and others, are engaging in the continent, supporting those that are far less fortunate than us, in supporting education, in supporting health. And this is something that, for me, is really rewarding and interesting.
The UK Ambassador to the Holy See, Trott, thank you so much for taking your time and being with us. In Rome, Andreas Thonhauser, EWTN News Nightly.